Got a bit of a short one here, but still an interesting one nonetheless, guys. The minister's fears COVID would have been federalist Trojan horse for the devolved nations. What? Yeah, we'll read into this a little bit here from Open Democracy, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from Open Democracy with the headline that ministers feared that COVID would be a federalist Trojan horse for the devolved nations. What? I know, bit of a crazy one, but Boris Johnson worried that working with leaders in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland could look like a mini EU. At the time, people were dying, and you're more concerned about, oh, we might look a bit too EU, taking authority over other devolved nations. Ministers in Westminster feared COVID could become a federalist Trojan horse due to the closer working relationship with leaders in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Senior government figures, including the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson, were concerned about the amount of influence applied from outside Whitehall, according to documents submitted to the second module of the COVID inquiry. In the evidence showed today, Johnson claimed it was ultimately wrong for him to hold regular meetings with the leaders of the devolved nations. Doing so, he said, risks making the UK appear a mini EU, adding, "This is not, in my view, how devolution is supposed to work." Okay. I understand the whole devolution, right, point, but like you're in a global pandemic, you need to cooperate with nations. You need to cooperate with everyone, yeah. And this ridiculous idea, and something as serious and as damning as COVID-19 was, like, you really need to work with other nations. I'm glad he did, but this point of him saying that he shouldn't have worked with them, I was just like, dude, like, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland are part of the United Kingdom. Obviously, I know the people of Scotland obviously want to go on their own, but it's still, we have a border with them. It's important that we have a relationship, have this optimal communication and talk to them about this, because, people can walk willy-nilly anywhere between the two nations. But the same with Wales. We have to have these conversations, and there has to be tried to be as close as aligned as you can in a situation like this, where anyone anywhere could have spreaded the virus and potentially killed someone. So, and this whole mini EU nonsense is just the least of people's priorities at the time. People weren't thinking about Brexit right there. People were not thinking about the EU. People weren't thinking about immigration. People were thinking about their loved ones. They were concerned about the well-being of their loved ones. And that was the most important thing, People were concerned. Just comes across such nonsense. Mini EU, what a load of nonsense, guys. Those in London also appear concerned by what potentially self-serving motivates their counterparts outside England might have taken for an active role in the pandemic's response. Professor Alistair Henderson at the University of Edinburgh School of Social and Political Science branded the evidence the most remarkable document I've read in a number of years. The phrase potential federalist Trojan horse jumps out. She told today's hearing, but also the devolved administrations were exposed to the UK's government's decision making, as if being in a room and listening to what the UK government was going to do was enough. It was also clear the Secretary of State for Scotland thought weekly contact was too frequent and certainly didn't want it to roll on after COVID. There is a clear effort to control or handle one of the First Ministers. In particular, there is a fear of federalism, there is a fear of leaks, there is a perceived kind of ventilation or self-serving data to the motives of the devolved administrators. People were concerned what they were saying in presence of leaders and officials from devolved nations. I understand the devolution, but again, I'm emphasising something here, a global pandemic here, that is striking the entire world, that is striking all four nations. This was important. Okay, I can understand winding it down after this global pandemic. Totally understand that. But the nations needed to be on the same page on something as serious as this, especially when you're tied into lands as well. Communication cooperation is vital and important, regardless of political beliefs in a situation like this. In WhatsApp messages, Johnson's former advisor Dominic Cummings advised the Prime Minister to chair daily meetings from Downing Street's cabinet room and not with the DA's devolved administrations on the effing phone all the time either, so people can't tell you the truth. Did he? I don't know. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but did he at least have weekly meetings with devolved nations? Like, some of you may disagree, say that they shouldn't have daily. They shouldn't have that Dominic Cummings is right, and they shouldn't have daily meetings. But like again, like we're talking about a global pandemic here, guys. Inquiry councillor Andrew O'Connor asked Henderson whether he suggested development ministers were not considered trusted partners by Westminster. Henderson said it was unclear exactly what the messages suggested, but added it implied people were constraining from what they were saying in the presence of leaders and officials from the devolved nations. The second phase of the inquiry is one of the UK's initial response to the pandemic, which started last week with a suggestion that the government could be judged on a number of deaths over the course of the pandemic. Earlier today, witnesses claimed disabled people had been an afterthought in the UK's initial response to COVID-19. The inquiry continues. Obviously, this will update as it goes along. But the main gist of the story is, for me, is about the brackets there. Trojan horse on devolved nations, mini EU, absolute nonsense, guys. I've said it a few times already, but I'm not going to say it again, guys. Cooperation is vital in a situation like the global, like it was in that situation. Absolutely vital. Millions of Americans died because of the incumbents of President Donald Trump at the time. You know, people died in Brazil at the incumbents of the Brazilian president because he didn't believe it. Probably millions died in Russia as well. There are nations who just tried to carry on as normal, and losses of life were discovered. New Zealand decided to do a blank out lock off and keep COVID out, which they somehow managed to do, and keep life going as normal for them. Sweden refused to do lockdowns and somehow made it through to the other side somehow with not having to lock the entire country down. There was a lot, but at the end of the day, you still have to have cooperation. And I understand that people will argue that it's down to those nations to decide for themselves. But in that situation, there needs to be cooperation on a global scale. There needs to be cooperation on a continent scale. There needs to be cooperation on a devolved nation scale, on your neighbours, and that there needs to be that cooperation. And the fact that Boris Johnson didn't think it was important, and some of his ministers didn't think it was important, I think is wrong, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments section below what you guys think of it. Do you think it was right that they didn't have so much dialogue with the devolved nations? Should they have had more? What do you honestly think so far of the COVID inquiry? Let me know, guys. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching. Also check out my Patreon for exclusive content on there too. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.